Now consider this. If God is now only calling a first fruits, and Jesus said, no man can come to me unless the Father draw him, well, what about the rest who are not the first fruits? Well, simply, it's not their time to understand right now. Okay? Now, Jesus spoke about this subject, and that is, the subject is people whose time is not yet. Now let's take a look at it and understand what Jesus is saying. In Matthew 13 and verse 10, and the disciples came to him and said, why are you speaking to them in parables? Now, a parable was like a riddle. You had to figure it out. And Jesus, without exception, would speak to the congregation in parables, in riddles that hardly anyone could get. In fact, every time the disciples had to come to Jesus and they had to say, explain to us the meaning of the parable. Explain to, again. He's sitting his 12 disciples down and he explains the meaning to his disciples. Okay, so they wanted to know, why are you speaking to these people in riddles? They don't get it. They don't understand it. You're not connecting with them. Now, let me back up here. You've heard all your life that Jesus spoke in parables to make the meaning easier to understand. You've been lied to about the Bible. That's not what your Bible teaches. Let's take a look at it. Matthew 13, verse 36. Now let's notice something that Jesus did. Then Jesus sent the multitude away and went into the house, and his disciples came unto them, saying, declare unto us the parable of the tares of the field. Why did he send the multitude away? Now he's about to explain the parable of the tares of the field. But before he does this, he sent the multitude away. That's like sending your whole church congregation away and taking 3 people and saying, I'm going to explain this meaning to you, but the rest, you send them away. Now the reason he sent them away is because it was not their time to understand. It was not their time for the multitude to understand. And so Jesus sent them away. God wasn't calling them at this present time. Mark 4 and verse 10. And when he was alone, they that were about him with the 12 asked of him the parable. Notice that. Only a few people are gathered around Jesus and the 12 disciples are there with him. And he explains the meaning of the parable to them and them alone. Notice Mark 4 and verse 34. But without a parable, without a riddle, spake he not unto them. And when they were alone, he expounded all things to his disciples. Now my question is why? If Jesus was trying to save the whole world, why would he send the multitude away and explain these riddles only to the 12 disciples if God is desperately trying to save the world? You see, you've been lied to about the Bible. You've been taught that God is desperately trying to save the world and Satan is desperately trying to get everyone lost. Well, if that's the truth, the devil is winning. Only about 30% of the world's population even claim to be Christian. Okay, God's losing by over 60%.